Welcome to Tardisian Files. Hello listeners! This week we were treated to every Bridgerton fan who's also a Whovian's daydream, in the form of the episode Rogue, where we saw the Doctor team up with a mercenary of the same name to bring down a group of shape-shifting avians known as the Cholders. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Starting with the overview, the Doctor and Ruby Sunday land in the year 1813 and attend a ball at Duchess Pemberton's party. During the event, the Doctor encounters a mysterious bounty hunter named Rogue, played by Johnathan Groff. Meanwhile, Ruby converses with the Duchess, who introduces her to the devious Lord Barton. As the night progresses, Ruby notices Miss Emily Beckett and Lord Barton arguing and follows them to the library, while the Doctor converses with Rogue heading out to the garden. Before them goes the Duchess, who is seemingly killed by an alien posing as her housekeeper. Meanwhile, Ruby witnesses a lover's quarrel between Miss Beckett and Lord Barton, and after he leaves, she accidentally reveals herself to Emily and begins to console her. Out in the garden, Rogue and the Doctor discover the Duchess's body, and they deduce that she was killed by an alien. However, Rogue believes that the Doctor is the culprit and leads him at gunpoint to his ship, which is coincidentally parked by the TARDIS. Back at the manor, the real shapeshifters, known as Cholders, in the forms of the Duchess and Lord Barton, converse with one another, revealing their plan to take their cosplaying, as they call it, to the next level. Upstairs, Ruby and Emily discover the body of the real housekeeper, with Ruby recognising this as an alien attack. She leads Emily back to the ballroom to search for the Doctor. Inside Rogue's ship, the Doctor convinces Rogue that he is not the culprit and instead the last of the Time Lords. As sparks fly between them, they devise a plan to trap the Cholders in a random dimension with no escape as opposed to killing them, like Rogue originally intended. The Doctor also shows Rogue the TARDIS, and sparks continue to fly between them. With Rogue's triform trap now set to trap one Cholder, the Doctor and Rogue meet up with Ruby and Emily and tell them that the Duchess is a Cholder. While Rogue explains what Cholders are and how they operate, the Doctor realises that these aliens live for drama. Using this to their advantage, the Doctor and Rogue create a very dramatic scene in the ballroom and lead the Cholders away from the house, leaving Ruby and Emily behind. Once outside, the Doctor and Rogue discover that they're dealing with not just one, but a whole family of Cholders. The Cholders begin to chase the pair, and the Doctor and Rogue upgrade the trap, so it'll trap 6 prisoners in total. Back at the house, in a twist of fate, Emily reveals herself to Ruby as being the 5th Cholder, and appears to assimilate her form off-screen. When the Doctor and Rogue arrive back at the house with their newly outfitted trap, the Cholders, in their natural form, are in the middle of staging a wedding between the phony Lord Barton and Ruby. Enraged by the apparent death of his friend, the Doctor proceeds to trap the Cholders in the upgraded trap, including Ruby. However, Ruby reveals herself to be the real Ruby Sunday and explains that she was able to overpower Emily with the battle mode installed into her psychic earrings. just as the original Emily appears in the doorway with a bent beak, furiously berating her family for not realising. Rogue swiftly drags Emily into the trap and urges the Doctor to press send on the fully charged Triform. The Doctor, however, cannot bring himself to do it. Seeing this, Rogue kisses the Doctor and uses it as a distraction to take the charge and take Ruby's place on the Triform pad. Before pressing send, Rogue tells the Doctor to find him and proceeds to send himself and the Chalders into a random dimension, apparently never to be seen again. The following morning, the Doctor tells Ruby how he cannot even find Rogue in the TARDIS, as he didn't even know his real name. Regaining his composure and resolve to continue going in order to honour Rogue's loss, he and Ruby leave to their next adventure. That episode was quite a roller coaster. Honestly, I'd been looking forward to it really since the trailers for this series first landed, and I must say, it did not disappoint. Starting with the pros, the Regency era setting was perfect for this story, I think, and it initially gave off a similar aesthetic to the haunting of Villa Diadote, with a mysterious alien on the loose and missing party guests. Additionally, Johnathan Groff's performance as the brooding mercenary, as well as his and Ncuti Gatwa's on-screen chemistry, was incredible. I personally liked the fact that this episode explores the Doctor's own sexuality and explicitly shows them to have non-heteronormative attractions, something that has only really been hinted at before rather than being explored in detail. And additionally, the Chalders' design was absolutely amazing. They weren't so much threatening in their appearance, but they were brightly coloured with dramatic facial features, and the actors' mannerisms fit the profile that the writers were trying to portray perfectly. Additionally, I remember a behind-the-scenes clip of Indira Varma in the full Chalder getup, and she was just talking about how it was insanely uncomfortable, so one does have to commend the actors who were wearing the Chalder masks, because they probably got very hot and bothered and still managed to deliver an amazing performance, so hats off to them. The concept of the Chalders being intergalactic cosplayers was also a nice touch, and I think it made for a comedic plus threatening tone for the episode, because even though the episode didn't have the same tension as the previous episodes, making it more light-hearted, the Chalders' ability to kill and assimilate the identity of their victims added a layer of threat to them, and the fact that they were so determined to play out their fantasies and go to any lengths to have the ultimate cosplay, I think really did help cement them as threatening but comedic villains in the Doctor Who universe. And I have to admit, the twist that Emily was the fifth Chalder was really unexpected for me, and it made me lurch forward in my seat. The reveal really took me by surprise, and I liked that element of the story very much. And even though the plot device of the psychic earrings was very predictable, and of course because we know from the trailers that Ruby was definitely going to survive this encounter, it made no surprise that Ruby was still alive after apparently being assimilated. No shock to me, although I did still think for a moment, oh goodness, what if Ruby's actually been gotten? Like, what if this is what gets her? And that, I think, was a really nice touch for the plot, because even though we knew sort of that Ruby was going to be fine, there was a moment there where I thought she wouldn't be. And that still hit me, and so I have to commend the writers for that, because that was one hell of a twist. Also, it was very nice to see Indira Varma back in the Whoniverse in a different kind of villainous role compared to her role in Torchwood. I do remember in an interview with Digital Spy, Varma compared her two characters, saying that unlike Susie Costello, the Duchess, or rather the Chalder Duchess, has her own agenda, but she's whimsical, greedy and playful, compared to Susie, who is a lot more serious, down-to-earth and a little bit mad. This is an assessment that I do wholeheartedly agree with, as the Duchess was indeed very theatrical, and Varma's performance as the Chalder Duchess was amazing. This episode also had a few Easter eggs that nearly slipped under the radar. The first was Susan Twist as the late Dowager Duchess in the portrait, once again recognised by Ruby and promptly forgotten in the lights of the episode. While it didn't reveal very much about this week's upcoming finale two-parter, it still was a much needed reminder that, just remember viewers, this is about to be revealed in the finale. It's coming. Another one was Rogue mentioning having to do so much paperwork since getting the new boss. Could this be the same boss that Beep the Meat mentioned? Potentially. I mean, why say it and then not explore it, if not as some sort of cliffhanger? Finally, eagle-eyed amongst fans may have noticed a particular face in the Doctor's scan aboard Rogue's ship. Richard E. Grant. So, for those who don't know, Grant voiced the original incarnation envisioned for the 9th Doctor in the web series Scream of the Shalka in 2003, in the pre-revival era before Christopher Eccleston took over as the quote-unquote real 9th Doctor. Grant also appeared in the 1999 comic relief sketch as an alternate 10th Doctor after Rowan Atkinson's 9th Doctor was killed and regenerated. And as most New Who fans may remember, the Great Intelligence's corporeal form and Walter Simeon were also played by Richard E. Grant. Thanks to the Timeless Child arc, this makes Easter eggs like this far less ambiguous, and it was very nice to see Richard E. Grant getting some recognition on the Whoniverse big screen. Finally, what I liked the most about this episode was seeing that the 15th Doctor has finally healed somewhat from their aversion to close relationships. Here we see him fully embrace his chemistry with Rogue and, quite honestly, fall hard and fast for the handsome mercenary, which was very unexpected and slightly out of character based on the Doctor's historical aversion to relationships. And I found that very refreshing, given how we've seen the previous incarnations of the Doctor react after the death of River Song and avoid romance with the 10-foot pole. Given the possible link to the mysterious boss and Rogue's disappearance, one can't help but wonder, is Rogue going to reappear? Are we going to see Johnathan Groff on the Whoniverse again? And in what way might Rogue return? Well, we don't know for the time being, but we can certainly speculate in the meantime. Moving on to the cons, I will keep this brief because I honestly didn't have any cons to this episode. I think every detail of the episode was spot on and I enjoyed it very much. I know that other people may disagree with that assessment, but personally, I can't really fault this episode. I thought it was brilliant conceptually, it was executed perfectly, and it brought some much needed story development, character development, and overall was just a very refreshing, slightly threatening, slightly comedic, all combined into one, and I really loved it. Overall, I think this episode was a pleasant contrast to the previous episode. It was theatrical, with a very popular Regency era aesthetic, with a handsome, brooding anti-hero type, with some further character development for the Doctor, along with several important Easter eggs helping to develop the ongoing story arcs in preparation for the upcoming finale. But what did you guys think of the episode? Is there something you liked? Is there something you didn't like? Is there something we missed? Did we gloss over it? Let us know in the comments section on your favourite podcast streaming app, or head over to our Instagram and TikTok pages at Tardisian Files Podcasts and let us know in the comments for the promotional content for this episode. Hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, everyone, and as always, see you next time on Tardisian Files.